Alex, you guys had a really good first half, and you guys played well in that game. When you look at it overall, after a day to really study it, how good of a game was it for you?
Well, I think as you look at it, obviously some numbers favored us, in terms of the negative plays, and you make such an emphasis of it, and I could tell them today we throw mini candy bars at them when they give them in spring practice and fall camp for a reason, and you kind of ha about it, but obviously they can have impact on eliminating scoring drives, and so in any event, what you don't want to do is you don't want to minimize that, but so we're excited by that, but what you also see is the lack of takeaways, which is 2 weeks in a row, which is a big disappointment, and we're allowed to be disappointed. You can get the results that you want and still be disappointed, and it controls outcomes. It does. It changes that football game. The fact that they had 2 and we had none, and fortunate to come away with a win despite that. But disappointed that way, and obviously I think from a finishing standpoint, it's something that we continue to kind of search for. But obviously, quality opponent, give them credit. They're certainly not just going to go away, and I think we got. Certainly make the claim we got out executed in the fourth quarter and out coached, so we got to be better that way.
Kenneth early sack in that game when he got Ellinger, and then he was named the defensive player of the week. Talk about that momentum that it gave you right there when he got that sack on.
Well, again, it's momentum. To your point, they're momentum plays, and there's several over the course of a game every Saturday, and obviously in an environment like that, you're searching for as many as you can have on your side of things, and to have something early certainly is a positive. And what you got to be able to do is when the momentum goes the other way, and they get to play, how do you respond? And so I think, our response in some of those instances was really, really good. Put in situations after turnovers that you got to respond and try to limit points, limit gains, and all those things. And so response to adversity at times was really, really good, and other times we got to do a better job of changing the momentum sooner. So some real highlight plays that we got to continue to make.
Can you pinpoint why the turnovers haven't come in significant numbers?
Well, no one emphasizes more than us, and they don't, and that's fact. From takeaways in practice, stripping out the football, all those things. I think one, anticipation of making plays is part of it. If a play breaks and there's that moment of please get him on the ground, as opposed to what a great opportunity for us to first guy wrap, second guy strip. Where's our mindset? Is it where it needs to be on the actual stage? One thing to do in the practice, because if you miss that thing, then you blow the whistle and reload the play. It's another thing to do it on the stage in which we play. And so is that part of it? Is it when the ball's in the air, are we expecting it? Do we want it? And all these things are created by coaches, so it's not on the players to do those things, but ultimately it's on us to ingrain that in them, and obviously we aren't there yet, and that's the reality of it, and we got to do a better job as coaches to get them there, because again, to be -2 in turnover margin and come out with a win, really put our team at a disadvantage.
Alex, how did you guys think you did when you had Jaden Davis? You had a package where he was on the field as an extra defensive back. How did you think you guys looked in that?
I was pleased with it, and then that's something that we've used in our past at other places, and just something that based on his performance up until this point, something we had conversations about in fall camp. And if you don't have the right guy to bring in, why are you bringing to bring in a guy just to bring in a guy? And who are we taking out to get that done? Does it put you at an advantage in the particular situation that you're looking for? A lot of times it's in the third down, key down situation. And obviously he's played to that level where you say, okay, this could give us an opportunity to have some success, maybe have better matchups, and some of the things that you're trying to do. And so, overall, certainly pleased. And that's something that based on a week-to-week basis, you kind of take a look at is if that is something that can help you be successful that coming Saturday.
Pretty powerful comment today by Lincoln when he said this is the week that will tell us if this is who we are, or if we just did that because we were playing Texas. How do you avoid that complacency as a defensive coach now?
Well, I think one of you preload these guys. I mean, I think if you pulled our kids in terms of how we practice, they would tell you, practice 1 of fall camp looked like practice 30 of fall camp, looked like practice 1 of Houston prep, looked like practice one of Kansas prep, and continued on. Today was no different than last Monday in terms of how we handle and approach our guys from a meeting room standpoint and on the field standpoint. And so I think that's part of it. And I think continue to be demanding. There's enough film to suggest that we can be very, very average to get the attention of our guys. And there's also film to suggest that you can be a good defense. So we don't hide from either of those two things. But as you go through it, there's a lot of that's a fact, from our head coach, and something that's a challenge to all of us, one as coaches and two as players.
Alex, I know it seemed like Kenneth Mann's starting to get a little bit, some more snaps for you. Can you tell us kind of what his process has been like coming back? And I noticed that Jordan Kelly was also warming up with your team a little bit. What's his, prognosis for the future?
Sure, and then first with Jordan, just a guy coming off of off-season surgery and kind of got cleared, and so a guy that got cleared, and so kind of working him in to practice and all those things, and like anything, and we've proof in these first 6 games that if guys can help us be successful, then we're going to put them in games, and so he's just a guy that we're bringing along as we go, and then similar with Ken, has been around now for a few weeks, but missed all the fall camp. Missed all the summer, and so a guy that, like you said, working back in there, and a guy that, we expect to continue to improve each week is, he doesn't have the cumulative reps of some of these guys and some of the things we're asking them to do. So, I think better days ahead for him, and we need him to.
Alex, having a guy like Neville Gallimore in the middle of the defense, just having an experienced guy being a fifth year, what does that mean for him being a leader on the defense?
Well, I think, number one, you got to make plays. It's one thing to have experience, but experience without, doing it at an elite level. You want an audience. You got to show results, and so he's one of those guys that continues to produce for us, and did some real nice things this past week and continues to. And when he speaks up, the guys listen to him. And so you can't have enough leaders as long as they're the right leaders. And so for him and Kenneth Murray, kind of two guys to highlight as being those for us.
What do you see out of Austin and the West Virginia offense?
Well, you see another spread offense, and here we go, another week in the Big 12. Multiple as you go through it. Not maybe as much quarterback run game as we've seen from some of these guys, but they do it a variety of different ways. A multitude of formations, motions, and Coach Brown does an elite job as both a quarterback guy and just on offense, and the job he did at Troy as he transitions into West Virginia, and they got our certainly have our respect in terms of what they do offensively.
Coach Nick Medino and Brian also know two guys that have kind of worked their way into getting more reps as the season has gone on. What have you seen from their development that's got you excited, not just their short-term future, but just long-term? Yeah, and then what you're seeing is guys that are putting on the practice field, and when you're doing it in practice, then you're going to get an opportunity to do it in the game, and if they want more reps, they got to continue to show that way, and then once you get the okay, now you've earned the rep on Saturday. Now you got to go do it, under the lights or on that particular stage like this past weekend, and they've done that and they've shown well. And those are some of the guys we highlight to the team as guys that to make a determination what your role is going to be going into a season, or based on 1 week or one half of football or against this opponent, is really misguided. What you need to do is focus on having a great great Monday, a great Tuesday. You start stacking those, we're going to get you in the game, and then even like Justin Broyles gets in there and has the TFL. I mean, when your number's called, this football team expects you to step up, and those two guys you mentioned have done that at times.
I'm just curious. You got 2 safeties and a cornerback who are your top 3 tacklers against Texas, which is an opponent that is, we presume, is going to be a game that's played at the line of scrimmage. Yet those are your top 3 tackles. Does that say something about your defense, about their effort, about what the formations were?
Yeah, I think it probably speaks to all those things. Some of the perimeter things that they do and kind of attacking. Some of the bubbles and some of that. Kind of leads to that. The good thing on that is that we're not talking about all those being 25-yard gains, or obviously explosive plays or 10-yard gains. A lot of those are at or near the line of scrimmage. We expect our defensive backs to be playable in the run game in some of the things that we do. So I don't think there's major big picture stuff as you look at it. But again, I think for the most part, as you look at our tackle statistics that we do, is when our guys' numbers have been called, we've been fairly successful in getting the guys on the ground.
You've talked about recruiting, especially with the defense not having any tape or anything. After Saturday, give you a little more confidence making phone calls and talking to recruits?
Well, it's always more fun to make phone calls and text messages after a win. So to make it anything more than that is it's one game, and the momentum wears off after a few days. But certainly in the hours preceding that, you're making those phone calls, and on national television, you now have a performance or snaps and production that you kind of made, I guess, promises to young guys out there in terms of some of the things that we can do. But like all things, it's one showing and some film. But no, it's fun for a week.
You talked, and you were just asked about Neville and what his performances have meant for your defense. There's a lot of talk about your defense is needing a guy like Hercules, like you had at Washington State. Is that what the impact he's bringing for you at Oklahoma? Yeah,
I mean, what you're looking for in your front, you're looking for production. You're looking for guys that can create, a negative play on offense. The difference between 2nd and 9 and 2nd and 11, it doesn't sound like much, but it's huge. So. Is there a specific prototype for what that looks like? No, big, fast, and athletic, and strong, and all those things. Which obviously Nev is, and but having those guys. I mean, what we do defensively is designed to have guys in the backfield. And it's one thing to have guys in the backfield; it's another thing to make plays in the backfield. And so, you mentioned some guys from our past, and obviously Nev now is, and there's other guys that showed well this past weekend, and that becomes the expectation. Not the specific number count, but just in terms of TFLs and sacks. We're going to put you in position to have those, and we expect you to make them.
In regards to CD, when you're defensive coach and you're trying to game plan, and what Lincoln did Saturday, run him in motion behind the formation, run him in motion in front of the formation, decoy him. It looks like he's going to take a reverse, looks like he's going to throw it, looks like and then he pop one for a touchdown on a flea flicker of all things. What does that do to a defensive coach when you're trying to match up with a guy who's coming in motion like that all the time?
Right, and what you're not able to do is you use the word match up. I mean, to always have eyes on him or have specific guys with eyes on him is darn near impossible, especially understanding with the ability of a quarterback to run and all the things that they do offensively. It really puts defenses in bind. We had years ago Amari Cooper in the SEC championship game, and But they got a pretty good tailback, pretty good quarterback, and all those things. So your initial gut says we better stop him, and then the reality is you get on the board and say, well, how? And there isn't a how, And so no, that's a big strain on defenses.
You're going to get, I guess offensively, you're going to get him isolated at some point against a linebacker or a safety or something, right? But at the same time, you're also doing a lot of window dressing. Is that the theory behind that?
Well, you're trying to as best you can is say, okay, you have him, but who do you have him on and when do you have him? And that is easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.